Hello everybody, my name is Thor Young. I'm a moderator at Bear Bull Traders, and this is our series on volume price analysis, episode 3, and it is going to be using VPA to take the trade. Since we're a couple of episodes in now, I thought I would take one episode to kind of show you a little bit about where we want to be, all right, by the time we're all done. So we're going to talk about a few quick things here, but I want to take you through a trade from start to finish. This is a trade that I took today on SQ, and it's just a really beautiful example of how we can use VPA in order to be able to get ourselves in a really great position, but not only get in a great position, but actually utilize that position and actually work the position, manage the trade. I always talk about that I believe that management is more critical than entry, and in this trade I'm going to show you why. Before I go on here, I'd like to take a quick moment, if you could, to ask to go ahead and subscribe to the channel. You can do that by clicking below and ringing that beautiful bell. That way you'll be ready for any of the episodes that I have coming up in the future. Also, at the end of this, if you happen to like the information you get here and find it to be useful, feel free to go ahead and drop me a like. Also, by the time we're all done, I'd like to encourage everybody to please throw in some comments. Any questions that you have, put them in there. I'll do my best to answer them. And then also, I'm going to be starting to go into the next VPA areas. My next one is going to be on pivots and ranges. How to use VPA to isolate certain levels and to know that those are the levels that we want to interact with. And you're going to get a little bit of a sample in that today too. So hopefully you'll find something that you like in all of this. And now on to the VPA. So as we're taking a look on the VPA here, I'd like to draw you to SQ. This is actually a trade that I did just today, so we're not going to get any fresher than this, all right? So the first thing I want to talk about on SQ was it was the daily that originally drew my attention today. I want to go through and show you that VPA actually works on multiple time frames, from the largest of time frames to the smallest of time frames, and this is a great instance. Now, let me go ahead and bring out this daily chart here. Let's see here. Now, you'll notice that SQ here had earnings or some other, I believe it was earnings that happened back on the 5th, and you can see we had a nice big gap up here and a lot of volume came in here. It was a positive event. So, and a lot of people were actually caught off guard by the fact that it actually sold up a little bit and then had a really hard sell-off. But to a lot of the seasoned traders, we're not very surprised by this at all, because what often happens on good news is a position needs to be accumulated before we're ready to actually move up and move in the right direction. This is a perfect example of that. So as you can see here, we had this large bar here, and then you can see on the next day we pushed up, but we pushed up on half the volume. Then after that, we sold off, but we started to sell off, and notice as we came down, the volume continued to decrease as we went down. I'm going to go through in a short bit on the 1 minute when I took my entry how an ABCD pattern has a very specific type of volume profile when it's successful. And I want you to see here that there's actually some of that going on. We're going to talk about how when the price comes back down, how you need that to be on low volume and for that volume to start to build afterwards as you press up. And you're going to notice here on the volume that that is exactly what has started to happen here. So let me move myself over to this side. Now, as you can see, I traded SQ quite extensively. I got in near 144, almost at the previous days, at the recovery of the previous day's high, right? And then partialed that nicely and did a couple of add-ins, actually 3 add-ins as I went up, and got pretty darn close to the highest price of the day. I was really happy with this trade. So you can see here what I was waiting for is as we were preparing to break out, I had some really key levels that I was going to pay attention to on the daily. So you can see here when we opened, we actually lost the daily level and then we got above it. So I went long above this key daily level. Now, why am I liking these levels? Remember, we had this gap and a big push up and then a sell off, and now we're slowly building on each day's level as we move up. So I want to see that pattern continue. So as we lose the daily level, but we hold 143, push up here, and then make a high above this daily level, that's when I get long. We press up, and then look, we test and hold this daily level. That's where I add, right? And then I did some more adds above these levels I have up here at 150 and so on. and those are levels I'm covering from carrying. I actually pulled those off of the 1 minute chart as I was trading. I'll show you those in a second. So let me get this back down here. So on to the 1 minute. So the first thing that happened here is we pressed down here, we lost the 100 moving average, and then we actually bounced and then moved in here. And here's where the VPA really starts to kick in. So I was going to tell you that we're going to have the anatomy of the VPA basically on an ABCD pattern. So as you can see here, I have a very obvious ABCD pattern going on here. Now, the one thing that is incredibly important in VPA, if you're going to have a lightning bolt, ABCD, any of these kind of continuation patterns, is you want a strong move up, and then you want a weak pullback, and then a strong move up. All right, so during the pullback process, and I'll show you that in a second, how it's contrary, and during the pullback process, if you have too much volume, then it's not good, and you're more likely to fail or continue to go lower. So as you can see here, we had this big, strong move up. We came back down here on less volume, but still a little bit too much to warrant an entry. So you can see I didn't get in here at VWAP. I actually waited. And then we pushed up here and then started to pull back on low volume. After we retested VWAP again and wicked it, I went ahead and went long with the loss of the wick of that candle. So if we came back down here and then lost this 144.20 area, I was going to be out. So that gave me about a 25-cent risk. So, and then we came down here and noticed the low resting volume, and then the volume comes in as we push up. Nice strong move. I got a partial at the break, just a 10% to make sure in case things failed for the high of day that it would, I'd still get at least a little bit on this one. But then we popped up and I got some great partials, and I was down to, I got 10%. I was down to 50% here, and then another couple, down to about 20% by the time I was done with these next couple of moves. So let me move over here a little bit. All right. There we go. So as you can see here, I got these nice moves up, partial, and I was down to 20% here. Now, I'm going to do a class later on the free roll, but this is a perfectly good example of one. As you can see, we came up here, and then notice we sold off on strong volume, but as soon as we hit this daily level, we blew off of it with a hammer on low volume as a test, right, which looked real nice. So I went ahead and added in here. My new loss was just going to be the loss of this level right down here. Easy enough. We pressed up here, took a little while, and then finally got a partial near high of day, and then the break, partial. Notice how the volume came in here nice and strong. Now, I don't see this as being exhaustive volume. Although it is higher than everything else, it's not climactically high, and it was on a really big candle that was breaking up towards key levels, right? So partial, but it was enough volume to consolidate the stock for a little while, and you can see we did that. Now, when we're looking at VPA, what we're looking for are anomalies. So as you can see here, as I'm pushing through, I actually haven't mentioned any anomalies yet. And that's because I haven't really seen any. Everything that's going on right now with the stock looks fantastic. The health of the stock looks good. When it pulls back on low volume. When it pushes on high volume. And these are the exact kind of things that I'm looking for in a trending stock. So by this point, once I've got these partials, I'm aware that I am actually in a trend and that I'm actually getting into one nicely. And it's a very rare occasion, in as far as I'm concerned, in today's market, to really know I've got a trend on this one. This one's going to work all day. It was just, I was feeling it. So we got here, I got some great partials here, and then we started to pull back, and I decided, you know what, I'm just going to set this thing out and let it ride for a little while. So let me move to my 5-minute chart. So as I said, I'm going to just go ahead and let this thing ride for a little while. So you can see here, I got those partials there, and then notice I just waited for a second, and it started to bounce up the 9 EMA here that I have on my 5-minute chart. Now it came back here, came to retest, and when it came to retest, I saw this nice, see again, we have the same thing. We have a push up, the push up builds on volume, and then we have a pullback, and the pullback happens on lowering volume. It's exactly what we want. We touch the 9 EMA, make a new high, I add in, right, and then boom, off to the races. I get partial. Notice the big surge in volume as we push up, right? So we get up a nice push up, but on big volume, which is what we expect. Look, last time we had a big push up, it was on big volume. So that all looks good. We set up here, we start to set this new level here. We got this lower range here, which was the break of 150, which was a goal that I was hoping for, and we nailed that. Looked like it was holding it well, so I went ahead and added here on the low volume pullback to test 150. Notice the indecision here on the black candle, right, on low volume. So I added on the low volume, which showed a lack of pressure to sell. Right, we go in here, great add. When I added with the loss of 150, so this gave me a lot more shares in, a few hundred more. I was able to get some partials all the way up. And then I did one more test on the 9 moving average for an add, and got a strong move up, partial, and then there it is. We got our shooting star, upside down hammer on fairly good volume at the top of the trend. I knew I was pretty much done, and then we lost the 20 EMA as well as my 50 SMA on my 1 minute chart, and I went all out. So when I'm trending a stock, I trended up the 100 SMA on the 1 minute chart, which is basically the 20 EMA on the 5 minute chart. But as you can see here, we never lost the 100 SMA as we were pushing up, constantly using the 50 for reinforcement. And then when we finally lost the 100 and lost it well, I got out. And as you can see, after that, it was really barely worth holding anymore for the day. Once you've got this indecision here, set up a nice pivot here up at the top, and then we came back down. I knew we were now inside of a range and we were going to probably start to distribute. And so I went ahead and just took it all out there and called it a day on the trade. So this was my trade on SQ, and as you can see, I want you to see the VPA and how the VPA can do that. I could see by the way the VPA was going that this was a trade I could actually trend and continue. There's a lot of stocks that you trade that are just chopping up and down inside of those ranges, and you have to play those a specific way. But in these instances, when you can really get into a good trade and really get things going well, managing it like this can really help you out. All right, so I hope that's really helpful for you guys. Before I get out of here, I want to give one quick shout out to Brian Pezims. Guys, Brian is one of our senior moderators. I did not have SQ in my watch list today, but he did, and because of that, I had an absolutely fantastic, one of my better trades that I've had. So I just want to give a little shout out to Brian. If you haven't subscribed to Brian's newsletter for his swing trades, you may want to take a look at those. I'll try and include some of those in the link below. Also take Brian has a book out on swing trading. Even if you're day trading, his swing trading books can be very beneficial to help you understand how the stock's going to move overall. So make sure to check that out. So I hope everybody has an absolutely fantastic day. I hope you've all traded well, and I'll have a new vid coming for you soon on levels and pivots. And until then, keep it green.